Hello and welcome. This is Seth with PitchGround, and today we're going to be taking a look at our new lifetime deal called Personizely. This powerful tool allows you to increase the engagement on your website with personalized marketing messages that will raise your conversion rate and take your business to the next level. Alright, so without further ado, let's jump right in. Alright, so once you sign up for Personizely.net, it will look something like this, except you won't see any data yet. Okay, so Personizely has four main areas. You can go to the dashboard, which we're on right now. There's targets, personalization, and widgets. And I'm going to give you an overview of these sections today, and we'll go into more detail in the following videos. Okay, but before we get into these guys, let me just show you how quick and easy it is to set things up. If you come over here, click this and go into settings, all you got to do is take this little snippet of code and put it in between the heading tags on your website. So you would just copy this code, go over to your website, and I use a simple plugin called Header Footer Code Manager. You can use whichever one you like. Just click Add New basically, and you can give it a name. And I'll go site-wide, though you could put it on an individual page if you wanted, whatever you want to do. Put it in the header, and just paste that snippet of code right there. Scroll down, save it, and you're good to go. Okay, so that's that. So now when you come back here, let's go over the rest of these things up here. Alright, so the next thing is users. This allows you to collaborate with different people. You could add users right here, or you could delete them, or you could edit. Real straightforward. Okay, so next up is integrations. Just scroll through the list and see which service you want to use, and just simply come up and press connect and authorize. It's real simple, takes about 30 seconds. More integrations will be coming soon, and they all have different features. So go ahead and take a look at these different providers and see which one suits you best. Alright, so next up is custom fields. This allows you to add custom fields to your widgets or forms or whatever you want. So if you click this, you could call it, for example, say you wanted to add a gender field to one of your widgets. So you would label it, and then you would select the type, and say you wanted it to be a checkbox or whatever you want to do, but you should get the idea. So when you save that, this field would now be available in your forms and widgets. Alright, so that's custom fields. And next is placeholders. These are basically places where you can embed your widgets inside your code. Say you want to have a widget inside your sidebar, or your header or footer, wherever you want to put it. Well, you could just create a placeholder, then create an embedded widget and place it there using these codes. Don't worry, we'll go into more detail in the following videos. Okay, so next up for account, if you ever wanted to leave, you could do that. Let's go to GDPR, and you could review and accept the agreement. And if you ever wanted to search for your personal data or someone else's, you could search it and you could delete it here. Okay, so that's all the options to get set up and get going. Alright, so let's now take a look at the main sections of Personalizely. When you first get started, I suggest you think about the end goal in mind and create your targets first, which you can then use in either personalization or the widgets. So let's click into targets and get started. So first thing you'll do is create a target, and say the first thing you wanted to do was get users to opt in. So let's just call this opt-in 1. Anyway, click create, and this screen then appears. And here's where the real magic happens. So when you click add a filter, it gives you a whole world of possibilities here. You can target users based upon if it was their first visit or their last visit, their history of clicks, their history of visits, what widgets they interacted with, the referrer they came from, the selector, which allows you to target based upon HTML elements. We'll give you some examples of all these things later, by the way. And query strings, which for example would allow you to target things in the URL such as different languages and personalize the content on your site based upon that. And UTM parameters. Again, you can do all kinds of stuff with these, so we'll definitely cover this more in the other videos. But with these things, you can basically target users where they're coming from location-wise, replace keywords that are inserted in your URLs, and you can dynamically replace them with personalized messages about the location that the visitors are coming from. So you can do something similar with devices and browser type, operating system, as well as the visitor's time. Okay, now cookie, you can do some cool things with this. You could send personalized messages to people in your membership site as opposed to people that haven't signed up yet. And of course, you could do a bunch of other stuff with it as well, but hopefully that gives you the idea. Okay, and last but not least, visitor properties. I'm going to click into this one. So as you can see here, if you click this, you'll notice that you can target users based upon the data you have for them, such as their email, first name, last name, etc. down the line. And you can see that that's that custom field we added earlier. Gender has appeared. So you could use that however you want for your targeting that you can later call into personalization or the widgets, which we're going to get into here in a little bit. And by the way, you can also stack up more filters here and get a little bit more advanced and basically stack things up and use some of these additional filters. Say we wanted to actually delete this one. Okay, so like I said, a world of possibilities here, and again, we'll go into these all in more detail in the following walkthrough videos. And you can also check out the longer webinars with the founder where he shared a lot of really great information about what you can do with all this when you're ready to dig in deeper. So there's a lot of different directions you can go, but like I said, when you start, just think with the end in mind, create your target, add your filter that's appropriate for your end goal. Let me give you an example here. Say you wanted to make a pop-up on your site so that when users had things in their cart, that if they tried to leave the site and exit, it would make a little pop-up with a coupon, a type of abandoned cart. So let me show you how to do that. If you come back here, I'm going to make a target for that end goal. So to do that, in this case, I would use the selector. Right away, I'm going to say if it contains higher than 0 items in the cart, then trigger our pop-up. So I need to get this element from the HTML. Now to do it, you can come to your site and you could look at your HTML code, right click, and you can inspect it, and you could look around in your code and you could maybe find it. Sometimes it's a little more difficult to find it, but no worries. Personizely will help you find it. You can just ask them and they'll tell you what to do. So I've got mine and I'm just going to paste it in right here. Ended up looking like that, by the way. Okay, so I got that in there and I've got my settings. And by the way, you could do some other things here as well, but we're just covering in this case. Okay, so then I would save target, and that's saved. And now we have made that target. So if you came here to targets, you would see opt-in 1, and you could go back and click into and edit it, or you could trash it and start over. All right, so anyway, we have our first target made, and now we can decide what we want to do with that target. You could either personalize, or you could use widgets. So for this example, I will just make a simple widget to make an email opt-in. So I'll click into here and you have 3 options: list building, on-site retargeting, and custom. Let me just cover what all 3 of these roughly do. Of course, with list building, you can make email opt-in forms and place the widgets at various locations on your website. On-site retargeting basically means you might want to retarget visitors on some of the pages on your website and kind of direct them to more important information that you want them to see using calls to actions inside of widgets that you can put on any page you want. Okay, and then custom, there's a lot to this one. I'll just quickly glance at it and then we'll jump back to list building. This one's similar to list building. It just basically gives you more options when you click into it. When you select something like a pop-up, and you go next, it basically just has more templates in here that gives you some extra features like cart abandonment or messenger, just age consent or cross-sell, just different cool templates that we'll cover in other videos. Okay, so anyway, that was custom. So let's continue with our example and let's go into list building. Okay, so you have different types of pop-ups you can use. Just select whichever one's appropriate for what you're going for. I'm just going to go with a normal pop-up for now. Next. And just pick out whatever template you like the look of. I'll go with this one. Hit next. And now you need to specify where the widget will be shown. So when you click here, it gives you options. Do you want the widget to be shown immediately upon landing, or when they scroll down the page a certain amount? If you click into that, it lets you specify the amount of scroll before the pop-up appears. So they all kind of have a similar thing where you can click into each one and specify the parameters that you want to use. Okay, so how much time have they spent on the page? Are they trying to exit the page? Did they click on an element, or did they hover on an element? Or you can get a little more advanced and do JavaScript calls. We'll cover that in later videos. But anyway, you got some options here. But for this example, I'm going to go with exit intent, and then I'll hit next. All right, and as long as you've already connected your email marketing service that we covered earlier in this video, then this option would work. Okay, so I've done that already, and I've created just a simple list in MailChimp, and now that list is available here. You can watch MailChimp videos on how to create lists, but it's real easy. So I'll just select the list that I want to use in MailChimp in this case, and then I'll hit next. And you can call this whatever you want, and then go ahead and click create. Okay, that was successful. And now click get started, and it's going to walk you through the little sections here. I'm just going to press next real quick and finish all this. You can read this if you want. All right, so now we got our email opt-in form that's a pop-up. And you can easily come in here and just select it with a pencil, change the headline real quick and easy. You can type right in here, or you could change the sub-headline, or you can delete them. And you could come over here and just press OK. And you have a whole bunch of elements here that you can drag into the pop-up. For example, maybe you want to put a timer on here for scarcity. So you can just drag that in, and then if you want, you can just drag this over a little bit, and there you go. Okay, so you get the idea. There's a whole bunch of different widgets, so feel free to play around and customize it till your heart's content. And so as you're customizing, you can walk through these tabs here, and you can adjust things like the style, background color, background images, stuff like that. And then you also have the color of the background. You can adjust this however you want or remove it. And then next, if you're using icons, you can adjust the size of the icons and position things. All right, so you got some styling options up here. Okay, so I'm not gonna use a timer in mine, but you could. So I trashed that. All right, so really the meat of this is this guy right here, the functionality. If I press the pencil here, you'll notice that mark is converted has been added by default. But let me just delete this and take it out and add it back, and I'll show you something. I always leave this one on so that when someone subscribes, we know it's converted, and that will show up in our analytics on the dashboard. Okay, but what you'll want to do is click add, and then we're going to go ahead and select our email marketing service, MailChimp in this case. Use whichever one you want. And then with that selected, you select action type. And just to keep it simple, we're going to add the list. However, you could use different segmenting options here with whichever email provider you're using. You might want to add VIP status tags in MailChimp, for example. But regardless, you have to have add to list in here. And then I'm going to select the list I want to add them to. And then I'm going to click add. Okay, and that's the first one. You got to have that one there. The wizard should have done it for you, but if it didn't, that's how you do it. And if you wanted to add more automation, you could add that VIP tag. Just come back here, go to MailChimp or whichever one you're using, and use their segmenting tags. For example, we could add VIP status, and you could have another list here if you made other ones. And basically, now you've stacked on a few automations here so that when someone opted in, they would have these VIP tags passed into MailChimp. So a lot of possibilities with that. Hopefully you get the idea. So once you're done with that, you could press OK. You can do further things that we'll cover in other videos, such as making flows. So right now, this is just a one-step flow, but you could come here and basically make a two-step flow. So if you click this, this has made a second step. You can see a thank you here. And so the way that would work is if we click back to the first step and press OK, actually, you got to come back into it now. Now right here, you could select change step, and now we'd have access to step 2. So that's real powerful because you can create flows and do a whole bunch of other things that we'll cover in other videos. Or you could send them to a URL of a thank you page if you wanted to redirect them there instead. Up to you. But in this example, I'll just keep it real simple. And when they submit the form, it's just going to close and then mark them as converted in our analytics. Okay, so once you're done styling all out and getting it configured the way you want, you would just press OK. And then you come up here for display options. For exit intent is the one we selected in the list earlier. Otherwise, you could change your mind, but I'll just stick with this one. You could specify when the exit intent appears. For example, if I want it to appear right when they get up to right here, that would be 1 pixel, like right around here. So I could tell this just to be 1 pixel. Just like that. You could do whatever you want. Okay, so next up is target. And you could target all visitors, or you could do a custom target. We're going to do a custom target and use the one we made earlier. So if you select right here, that pulls up the targets we made. So that's why I make the targets first, so we can now use them. Okay, so I'll select opt-in 1, and that appears right here. Otherwise, you could create a new target and go through that process we already did. All right, so next up, you can specify if you want that to appear on all pages or selected pages. And you could come in here and you could tell it to only show it on page 1 or page 2. Or you could add 1, and then you could add page 2 and page 3, etc. and stack them up, whatever pages you want it to show on, as well as what pages you don't want it to show on. Hopefully that makes sense. But for now, let's do it on all pages. And then for frequency, you can select if you always want to show it or if you only want to show it at certain days of the year, hours or minutes. So you can get pretty creative right here. Again, I'm keeping it simple for my example, and I'm just going to always show. Okay, and then you can decide if you want to stop showing it never, or after they convert, or after a number of visits. And of course, you can come in right here and specify how many visits. So it's pretty powerful, as you can see. So I'll just go with never for now. And then for scheduling, you could schedule it out here, use a calendar, and time it with your promotions or do whatever you want to do there, as well as skip certain days, like maybe you want to skip the weekend, so you could do that right here. Okay, so a lot of possibilities here. Once you get this all set up the way you want, you could preview it, and you could see what it looked like. And if you're happy, you could save it. Okay, and once that's saved, we're now done creating our pop-up and it has our targeting. So we'll go ahead and shut this down now. And here it is, list building 1, 2, 3. You need to turn it on to make it work. Okay, that's been published. And you could always come back and you could edit it and go back in and change your mind, or you could delete it or clone it or export it and use it in other projects. All right, so again, we've made our target and we've made our widget. So let's show you how this actually works now that we got it turned on. So if I come to the site and let me reload it so things take effect. Okay, and as you can see, I've already got 2 items in my cart. So say someone's going to other pages on the site, maybe they're on the shop, or maybe they go to the about page, but they have things in their cart and for some reason they're thinking about leaving your site. So they go up to leave and boom, it's done this little pop-up here that's incentivizing them to check out now. So that's a lot better than not having it, and you could recoup some abandoned carts, basically get their email and get them into your list and sell them more products in the future. All right, so that's how that works. I refresh so it'll work again, and now I'm just going to enter an email address here and I will subscribe. Okay, so now if we head back to the tool and we go to dashboard, you would see it in here as 1 widget conversion right there and 1 new contact. And it's still showing some old data for some other stuff I did. However, you can see here that you can configure things to show you exactly how much each conversion is worth to you, etc. And this stuff would all stack up in here and you could look at what's going on over the course of the month or overall, etc. Okay, so that was how to set up your targets and how to connect it with different widgets. And I showed you an example on the site. All right, now you have a basic understanding of what's possible. Now let's talk about personalization. It's a similar process. You'll need to create a personalization campaign, much like we did for the widgets. Now, before you do this, again, I always recommend you have your targets in place and you think about your end goal before you get started. Okay, so I'm going to come back to targets and I'm going to create a new target. And let's say we want to target iOS users on mobile. So I just type that in as the name. No one's going to see that. It's just for personal purposes. And now we can add in our filters. So what I would do is click this and I would head down and I'm going to select it by device. And then I come up here and then you just select mobile. You can do whatever you want to do. Hopefully you get the idea. And now I'll add 1 more filter and say it's people on mobile that are also on iOS operating system. So you could look through the list, or in this case, I'm just going to type in iOS and bring it up. Okay, so I'll select that. And now if you click off, you'll see that's been added. So as you can see, you can stack up more filters and get even more advanced. But in this case, that will work for what I'm doing. So now I'll save the target. And that's saved. Okay, and now I can personalize. So I'll click back to here. And I'm going to create a campaign. And I'll call this one iOS. And then hit next. And then here you can select what page you want it to appear on. I'm just going to put it on the home page, but you could do an inner page as well. And I'll just run it on just this URL, and then I'll hit start building. All right, and then this appears, and what this is going to do is going to load up the site. So just give it a little bit. Okay, and once the site loads, you can select the text elements that you would like to personalize. So if I select this, for example, I can create a variation. And then from right here, I can select the target that we made. So remember iOS on mobile, I'll select that. You'll see that we're using that target. And now if you come up here to the pencil and select this, you can come into this text and you can type whatever you want. So you got X1 or X2 or whatever. And then when you're done, you can press check, lock that in. And then I would save campaign. So then if you were to come over to our example site, let me go back to the home page. You would see that on desktop, it still says iPhone X. And what you could do is you could check this page on an emulator. I checked it in the real world and I was actually seeing it show up. So you can basically custom tailor the marketing messages that your users see depending on the device that they came in off of, as well as all the other possibilities such as UTM parameters, keyword replacement, geolocation, etc. So now I could take a look at this on an emulator. So if I go into Chrome Developer Tools, go up to the 3 dots up here, and then go down to More Tools, and then go to Developer Tools. You can see that iPhone X1 is now a personalized marketing message on this specific device, all the iPhone devices basically. Where back out on our desktop, it just says iPhone X for our desktop only. All right, so hopefully you get the idea that you can custom tailor your marketing messages for specific devices or any other types of targets you want to do. The sky's the limit. And if you want to take your marketing to the next level, if you want to raise your conversions, I highly recommend you learn this stuff. By the way, if you wanted, you could come up here and you could add more variations just like that. And now you would select the target you want again, and you could make a different target, and you could have something for Android users, and then it would pop up right here as a target. And then you could come over here, and then you could hit the pencil and come over here, and you could write a custom message for Android users. So anyway, I'm done for now. Hopefully you get the idea. There's a lot you can do with all this. I'll save the campaign. And we're essentially done with this example, so let me close this down. Oh, and by the way, this needs to be turned on if you want it to run. I'd already did that in the background. I was just making the point. And then you can see some analytics here. You can make more campaigns and they would all stack up down here. All right, so that's all for personalization, and that's all for the 3 areas that I needed to show you. So once you get your campaign set up, you can monitor the health of everything over on your dashboard. You would see all your analytics coming in here. Okay, well that's all I needed to show you for the overview. And as you can see, there's a ton you can do with this tool, but don't worry, we're going to cover it all in the coming videos so that you know how to use Personizely to take your marketing to the next level. All right, that's all for this video.